Very warm welcome and thank you to all of you for choosing to join the session today. I'm Indranil. I'm part of ITC's digital experience line of business for Europe. I'm based out of London. Today in this session, we are going to discuss a very important topic of spiraling trade spend in the context of CPG. As some of you might know that today trade spend singularly represents about 18 to 25% of the CPG's gross spend. And what is a bigger concern for most of the CPG companies is this is actually growing at a CAGR of almost 12% over the last 5 to 7 years. And in our experience, we have seen that many companies have not been able to extract proportionate return out of it. So what we would like to do today during this fireside chat is basically to discuss what are the possible strategies that the CPG companies can effectively deploy in order to secure a greater return from the trade investment. And to do so today, I'm joined by Mr. Bob Debicki. Bob heads up Anaplan CPG GTM globally. He is based out of New York, and he has been, advising a lot of CPG companies during his career spanning over 20 plus years, and he has helped them, achieve phenomenal commercial excellence. So today, Bob and I are going to be discussing our mutual experience in terms of what we think should be the mandate for CPG companies to redirect the significant spend bucket in the P&L. So thank you, Bob, for joining me, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks, Indranil. Pleasure being here.
Right. So the way we want to run the session today is for the first 15 to 20 minutes, Bob and I will just discuss within ourselves about our experiences, what the trends that we see, and what we believe are the right mix of techniques that the firm should deploy. And then, towards the last 10 minutes, we can actually open it up for Q&A. So whatever question that you have within yourselves, both Bob and I would attempt to answer that. So without any further ado, let's start the topic. So Bob, let me begin by asking you a very important trend, because if you look at, especially in the context of advanced markets, right, large CPG companies tend to overinvest in their relationship with the big box retailers, right? The supermarket, hypermarkets, where they have phenomenally pumped in a lot of trade dollars. And that has actually worked fine for them because they did not mind if the cost of distribution goes up slightly, but that gave them at least shelf presence, that gave them the availability that matters. But what has happened during this pandemic is we're seeing that significant change in consumer behavior, right? A lot of footfalls have now diverted towards, discounters, and a lot of them have also shifted to a range of digital channels. So, Bob, according to you, what is going to be the implication of this channel migration, and how do you think the CPG firms should really reimagine the way they allocate their trade resources? Just share.
Yeah, great question. I mean, what can we say about trade promotion that we haven't tried to say over the last 30 plus years in this space? But you're absolutely right, Indranil. We've done some studies recently that show the emergence of multiple channels. Just a quick note, 10 years ago, if you're just looking at food, for example, in the US, it was about 1.5% of revenue was coming from e-com. Now it's above 10. So that channel continues to grow. And as we saw last year, that was basically flipped upside down because of the pandemic. So some categories blew up in e-com, 20, 30% of revenues. And that's probably not the norm, but you do have this new emergence of multi-channel that's really important. And the problem will be that without visibility to spend at those different channels down to the lower levels of either location or time period or product, without that visibility, we're just going to overspend. I mean, we spend an inordinate amount of money doing traditional trade promotion, in-store merchandising tactics, like you said, and that has always traditionally been somewhat of a challenge. Roughly 2/3 of those promotions were ineffective, whether your goal was to drive revenue or profit or both. That problem still exists. Well, now we have the emergence of those new channels where that problem is going to be even more complicated. So unless you want to spend more to get less, you have to do things like pay for performance, for example, contract with your different channel entities, what you expect from them, and pay directly against that. Now, that's a challenge because visibility, again, to what actually happened isn't always there. So one important thing is to be able to get down to that lowest level of detail to see what you thought you spent, what actually happened, and what the remaining spend needs to be. And many of our clients are asking us, how can I integrate my advertising and promotion budget into my trade budget? How can I integrate my marketing spend into my so I can see what I need to do? And how can I run a scenario against those so that I know when I take money from one bucket, put it in the other, I'm not going to, one, cause friction with my partner, and two, lose out on my traditional baseline revenue. So really the visibility down to the lowest level, looking at an incentive-based architecture, and basically adhering more to the customer journey now than ever, as opposed to B2B, it's B2B to C, B2C.
Absolutely. I think I completely concur with you, Bob. In fact, during my conversation with a range of CPG leaders, I'm also seeing the similar initiatives being undertaken by them. But one observation that has kind of remained consistent is despite the fact that most of the firms recognize this to be a very significant spend, it's almost the second largest line item in the P&L. But, many are still struggling with extracting the right value of this investment, right? Regardless of the channel mix, regardless of whether, they're deploying a completely new channel strategy or whatever. So what do you think are the typical roadblocks which are kind of holding them back in terms of realizing the right return from this investment?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Trade promotion management, even though it's a very large, very expensive process, is still somewhat of a siloed process. You do your planning, you do your baseline revenue plan, you do your what if analysis, and you come up with these plans, and it takes months to get to the point where you think you know what you're going to do. Then when you go ahead and execute those plans, there's very little reaction time to, make sure stocks are in order, to make sure that customers are executing in the way that you contracted for. And that all boils down into visibility to data and collaboration among all the stakeholders. And I see this as a huge problem for trade promotion management and, promotion management in general, is the ability to access all the relevant information, not to recreate it, but essentially to utilize that data from your source systems, pull it in when needed, push it back when changed, to be able to look at your volume, to look at your funding, to look at the, the takeaway numbers, to look at what the remaining spend needs to be, and to look at the effectiveness after the fact to see which of the promotions are working and which aren't, and utilize that in a continuous improvement loop to be better the next time. And I can't stress enough the importance of collaboration, to be able to link your demand side through your commercial side, through your sales and marketing side, and out the door to your wholesalers or to your retailers or whichever partners you're working with. The ability to look at same page of information to see what downstream changes will impact upstream results, and to have all of that done automatically in a safe, synchronized environment is going to dramatically impact the results.
No, absolutely. I think these are very, very important, observations, Bob, and these are completely consistent with what at ITC, we are witnessing in the marketplace. But my observation has been that, when it comes to trade spend, often CPG firms do not approach it holistically, right? They look at fragments of the spend and they try and optimize them locally. Because trade promotion, even though it's probably one of the most significant line items within that total kitty, but the fact remains there are significantly other, the line items like route to market cost, retail collaboration cost, or credit and payment cost. And also you just mentioned about, the investment that is happening in the digital channels. But do you think this is the time for the CPG to look at the total investment in a holistic manner rather than looking at them on a standalone basis? Because I think,
the short answer, Adrian. The short answer is absolutely. The average CPG company, like you said, will spend 30% of gross revenues on promotional activities, and that'll get broken down into trade marketing and channel spend and all kinds of different programs, marketing spend, etc. Those are your levers. Those are your switches that you can turn on and off to be successful. So whether it's a customer activation number or credit and payment or a retailer collaboration cost or whatever it is, you need to look at that budget holistically. And when you look at that budget holistically, you can start to make better decisions across the entire spend. It's okay to make better decisions across half of that spend, which is traditionally what in-store merchandising is. But if you can make those same types of better decisions through insights, scenarios, and so forth across the entire spend, you can do more with less, and you can allocate the spending into the right buckets, to the right channels, to the right brands, and to the right programs to have a positive effect on revenue and profit for your company.
Right. I just wanted to share with you my experience of having worked with a large, US-based CPG company last year. And in fact, their trade spend is in excess of $1 billion annually. And what they were doing was they were just taking the spend and just allocating in relation to the volume that they have gotten from respective retailers based on the previous year's performance, right? And they were completely ignoring the aspect of what could be the new avenues of growth, right? Because if you look at, the traditional retailers, their growth is kind of flatline. The categories are also kind of showing a very flat rate of growth. Mm-hmm. If you just continue to, allocate resources based on what you've already seen in the past, so you are probably not investing in the new or the emerging avenues. And that probably, takes me to this whole point of net revenue management or integrated commercial planning, right?
Yep.
I know about because, but quite a few large firms are already talking about NRM, and some are probably more mature than others. So they are looking at the whole aspect of revenue management a lot more holistically. They're looking at pricing, promotion, assortment, pack price architecture, contract optimization. But again, winners are, just about, 2 to 3% of the whole pack. The rest of the firms are still looking at it, again, in a very disjointed manner. So I just want your reflection on what it takes to deliver a superior commercial planning capability, which is the core competency of the supply of a lot of CPG companies, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on two fronts. The first is that traditionally what we've seen is the planning process is so cumbersome and so demanding on our planners that oftentimes we take wholesale exactly what we did last year and put it forth for the coming year without any kind of critical eye to what worked, what's good, and what's not good. And we see that all the time. I've even seen that happen when companies have implemented newly installed TPM systems. They just can't get out of that process of doing what we did last time. Now, some of that's going to be required, right? But there's sure a lot of opportunities to do it better and to do it differently. When you start to link then to the commercial plan, you have a lot of benefits. You have the ability of cascading down from your big picture, from your annual operating plans into those operational plans in sales and marketing. And you start to look at things like assortment, like pack price, like all those different, promotional prices and things that go into the details around the promotion. It's a game of inches, right? If you can make modest changes or minor changes at different levels throughout the process, you're going to be more successful. Now, just that ability to link that AOP to your operational plans, like trade promotion plan, marketing plan, and to those execution plans, right? What the trade planners are doing, and have that synchronization between all of those points, it's going to reduce a lot of work. It's going to reduce a lot of errors, and it's going to give the planners the ability to think about things on how they can make better decisions. I left out the supply chain as well, but that makes a lot of sense to link the supply side in there because you want to get that demand number in, and you want to be able to look at what happens when you make decisions on the trade side back to the demand side. Can we fulfill? What's the right amount? Where do we need to locate the product and so forth? So I agree with you, and I think the direction we need to go is visibility, collaboration, and linking up to the commercial plan holistically, end to end, both inside the company as well as outside the company with trading partners.
Absolutely. But Bob, another observation is when it comes to commercial planning, I've seen that a lot of companies, including the biggies, still depend overly on Excel, right? Because they probably somehow think that Excel, is something that has been sustaining them for the last donkey years, and they do not want to, take a departure from that. And in the process, what is happening is they're compromising on the quality of analytics that is required for them to direct their, the trade promotion investments in a very profitable manner. So my question to you is, I know Anaplan has been helping solve significant commercial problems for a lot of CPG companies, and then you have a phenomenal install base, phenomenal success stories where you have delivered, phenomenal growth numbers. So how can Anaplan potentially help the CPG companies link the entire NRM components and eventually integrate commercial planning very tightly with financial planning at one hand and the downstream supply chain planning on the other?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and you're absolutely right. We see a heavy reliance on Excel by many of our customers, and it's predominantly because the types of activities they need to do in their day-to-day jobs are not satisfied by those traditional transactional systems. They'll only get you so far, and the last, mile of your actions need to happen someplace else. Anaplan kind of flips that upside down. The first thing Anaplan does is we provide a multidimensional engine in the cloud that's a highly tuned calculation engine. And that engine integrates with your source system. So we can pull in your financials from ERP. We can pull in external data from maybe a POS source or a retailer specifically. We can pull in market data. We can pull in macro indicators. We can pull in any kind of structured and unstructured data. But the real key to the Anaplan engine, we call it the hyperblock, is that it allows you to define hierarchies and to drill down in real time into the lowest levels of those hierarchies. So manage any data source, drill down to the lowest level, and plan from the bottom up. By doing so, you'll be much more efficient and effective in finding those little diamonds in the rough when it comes to trade promotion. The second piece I think is really key is that the platform comes with its own set of predicted capabilities, predictive models, data science, if you will. And that doesn't mean we don't integrate with other forms of data science and AI and ML. We certainly do. But the key here is that a model used by someone in trade promotion who's planning to do a specific merchandising activity or a marketing campaign can share that same sensitivity analysis that they use to come up with their plan with somebody over in finance so that they can adjust the overall plan, or with somebody in the demand side so they can adjust their plan. And everybody's working off the same number. If I tell you I'm going to grow my volume that particular week by 500%, and your model tells you it's going to grow at 100%, we have a problem. Anaplan gets rid of all that, streamlines that data science across the enterprise and outside the company as well. The third, which we mentioned and touched on a little bit, is the fact that Anaplan is absolutely the perfect solution for multi-party collaboration. So to be able to look off the same page of information, to be able to make decisions, to route those decisions for approval, for negotiation, or for updating or changing or modifying, all of that is embedded in the platform right out of the gate. So when you're doing your promotion planning internally, all of the stakeholders are connected. You're all seeing everything that's taking place in real time. When you execute those promotions and you push those out the door, your trading partners are now seeing what you're planning on doing. If they want to accept your notice of promotional offer, they can. If they don't, they want to renegotiate or they want to change it, they can do that as well. And then finally, the thing that may be kind of like the best of all things is the fact that Anaplan is truly a line of business user solution. So Anaplan doesn't make you send in a request order for something to change, and then 3 weeks later we see it finally got changed. A business user, oftentimes a power user, sets up the models, maintains the models, changes the models, adds new hierarchies, adds new products into those hierarchies, does all the kinds of things that you would expect somebody to do from a power user standpoint to keep the solution up and running and tuned and ready to go. So many of our customers are realizing the benefits of this, and they're beginning to expand into Anaplan for doing end-to-end S&OP, commercial planning, trade promotion planning, and all points in between.
And absolutely. And last point, Bob, which I want to make before we open the session for Q&A, is while a very robust planning platform is absolutely essential and the cornerstone for commercial planning, it is also important to make sure that the integration with the execution system is also real-time and synchronous. Oftentimes, what we have seen is the companies have spent a lot of resources, time, and energy in creating a very precise plan. But when it comes to execution, there was a lot of transmission loss, and that is because of the latency of integration between planning and execution. Sometimes planning is being done at a higher granularity than what execution requires, and execution team then took their own liberty to write their own playbook, which eventually, led to, flawed execution. And another important thing is, see, you plan probably periodically. You don't plan on a daily basis, right? And because of the fact that there is, system challenges with regard to create, continuously agile plan. But if you can create a continuous integration between planning and execution, as and when the execution realities change, you can quickly reflect that in your planning models and come up with a new output, which would then be executed. And so the execution between planning and execution, the integration between planning and execution is also key. And that's where I'm sure Anaplan has already come up with a lot of native integration methods by which the different source systems can be synchronously integrated with Anaplan, right?
Absolutely. We adhere to all open standards. We use any number of different methodologies to securely and safely and accurately pass data from back and forth to those source systems, whether it be, products in the marketplace, whether it be, Anaplan's specific data hub. We have all that capability ready to go. And the beauty of it is we can do it in a secure manner. We can go down to the lowest level of the cell, and we can prohibit that from people we don't want to see it, and we can open it up to the people who need to see it. So that synchronous, asynchronous capability is really important. And, with our over 1,600 customers, we basically can connect to anything out there in the marketplace. So
that's absolutely phenomenal. I think that's really phenomenal. So with that, we'd like to, open the floor for any questions that the audience might have. Both Bob and I would love to answer any queries that you might have specifically.
Okay. I see one here, Indranil. The question is commercial planning. We have TPM, but we want to expand to commercial planning. How do we start?
Well, that's a great question. See, what we have done is we have created an integrated commercial planning architecture. So in that, what we have done is we have, integrated the strategic commercial planning with the cycle planning. And this is actually rendered through 9 interconnected models. Like we have assortment planning, we have coverage planning, we have media planning, we have incentive planning. And then we also have a seamless integration with the output of the SNOP on the demand side. And all these models are completely interconnected. They talk to each other. And we have created the capability in a manner that if there is a change in one model, the corresponding changes are reflected in the other model without one having to go and manually adjust them. So this basically gives them an off-the-shelf kind of an accelerator by which they can start and quickly get to the end state of commercial planning. And having said that, this is not just limited to TPM. You can also just have the assortment planning as a model, and then you can quickly improve other models to get to the target end state. So just to answer this shortly, yes, we have a complete accelerator which combines the different elements of a commercial planning, and we can bring them all together and quickly help you take to the end state.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. Indranil. We failed to mention that Anaplan kind of runs under this concept of models, and models are basically digital representations of your business. So if you were to build an assortment model in Anaplan and a pricing model in Anaplan, and then you decided you want to go and do trade promotion management with Anaplan,
yes,
it's just a matter of connecting those models. So and that's the beauty of Anaplan. Sorry, go ahead.
I see another question which just popped up here. They're asking, most TPM projects fail to bridge the gap between sales, accounting, and finance. How does Anaplan-based integrated commercial trade planning and TPM offerings solve this? Any thoughts on that, Bob?
Well, yeah, I mean, what Anaplan does is we are a system of insight. So we connect to all of your systems of record, and then we allow all of your lines of business stakeholders to be part of that connection. So the information from finance, the information from sales, the information from accounting is all resident in the Anaplan hyperblock and visible to everybody. And with that said, now you've created this environment where everybody sees everything in real time. So when you begin to manipulate your financial forecasts, or you begin to manipulate your trade programs, whatever, it's all connected. So if you wake up one day and you notice that your forecast has gone down by 0.5 percentage point, you can easily drill in and see what happened. Oh, I noticed that they changed the mix of promotions going out the door to 2 of our key retailers. Oh, no problem. That has an impact on our plan. Let's deal with it. So it connects everything. We're a system of record. We created this market space called connected planning, and that's what we do.
Thank you, Bob. And there's a question from Graham. Graham is asking, what is a successful promotion, and can we measure every aspect of that promotion to use it as a platform going forward?
I think I understand. Yeah, what's that? I think I understand the question. If you want to measure every aspect of a promotion, you absolutely can. You can measure what you thought you were going to get, what you actually got, what your spend was, how it executed. You can measure your profitability. You can measure your revenue and volume. You can measure just about anything you have data for, and you can do it pre, during, and post, so that you can go back later on and you can start off the planning process with a more efficient view of how to promote by account, for example. I don't know if that answers the question, Indranil, if you want to add to it.
Right. So Graham, just to answer you specifically, there are fundamentally 4 stages of a trade promotion, which is planning, targeting, execution, and evaluation, right? And especially, we tend to evaluate only after the promotion is launched. But, in order to determine whether the promotion has actually delivered the target objective, you require the help of advanced analytics. Right? Because let us say that we are targeting a certain revenue lift from that promotion, but the fact remains you would have run many other concurrent promotions, you would have already changed prices, you would have done some of the market interventions, the competition might have also initiated some initiatives in the marketplace which might have had some bearing on your volume and value. So the question is, can you really, decompose the impact of each of those interventions in a manner you can safely attribute X amount of revenue lift to that particular promotion? That requires, sophisticated advanced analytics algorithm, which Anaplan as a platform is completely equipped with. So just to give an answer, yes, we can measure the execution efficiency, we can measure the planning efficiency, and last but not the least, the actual, commercial effectiveness of the, promotion itself, whether it delivered on its revenue objective or not. We can measure all of that.
Let me just add to that, and then we have time for one more. The thing about your question that I find interesting, Graham, is it's almost like I think you're asking, can we use knowledge from past performance to drive future performance? And that tends to get into things like AI, ML, and automation. And those pieces are embedded into our platform. So if you wanted to point our AI and ML to your historical promotional view from last month, last week, last 5 years, at any level in the hierarchy, we can help that. We can help the system become more intelligent and make recommendations to you going forward. Okay, the last one before we wrap up, Indranil, is I have a TPM system. Does Anaplan replace that TPM system, or how does it integrate?
Yeah, the answer is, the more I think about it, I would like to say that Gone are the days when you would look at TPM and TPO systems separately, right? So there are new age TPM applications which are coming up with phenomenal TPO capabilities, which will basically reduce the need for you to straddle across multiple applications for point needs. And Anaplan is definitely one such platform which not only has the very strong TPO capabilities, it can also implement all the TPM capabilities that one might require. And what ITC is doing on the top of the standard modules that are available on TPM platform is we are trying to bring in RPA-based automation for deduction and settlement, because that's again, a huge execution side challenge, especially for bill back promotions. When you get the invoices which are already reduced and then less spent by the customer, how do you really reconcile? How do you do the invoice verification? How do you go back and check what was mentioned in the contract? And a lot of manual intervention goes into that. So we are trying to help solve that by bringing the RPA-based automation, and then soon we will be launching that solution as well. So answer is yes, we can do a very efficient TPM, which will take care of the inter-transactional processes, and then we will bring in the TPO capabilities, which will help you optimize and deliver suggestive capabilities for a superior return on trade investment.
All right. I think that's a wrap.
Thank you.